Morning, Pennsylvania. I'm Carl Jones. Today we'll be joined with hometown author and victim of a psychotic lifestyle in a psychologist's home. As a boy, unimaginable horrors lived through as if imaginable. Now author of his own memoir, Running with Scissors, we welcome Augustin Burroughs. It's nice to have you here, Augustin.
And it's great to be here, Carl. Your hair looks very nice, I might add.
Actually, it's all the hair artists in the back. I did nothing.
Can we get another round of applause for them? Yes, thank you, Augustin.
As fascinating as my hair is, we're all quite interested in your book. I tell our audience members who have not read your story yet how truly interesting your childhood was.
I'd hardly call it interesting. Most would label it unorthodox. There was never a dull moment growing up with my family I call the Finches. Lived with my real mom for part of the time, but she wasn't family. The relationships I developed with the people around me were as chaotic as the inside of the Finches' house. I quickly found myself in a struggle to find my true identity and purpose in life at age 14. Realizing the disturbing truths that surrounded me as a teen, I've now grown up since then and have produced these memoirs in Running with Scissors.
Told you that would be much more fascinating than my hair. Now tell us, your book focuses on my many family dynamics outside the norm. How would you describe your family?
A dysfunctional yet highly understanding atmosphere. Not your typical mom, dad, and siblings. Try Dr. Finch's patients adopted as my new siblings, Agnes, his wife, that puts up with his multiple affairs or what he'd call wives, Natalie and Hope, who'd poo all over the house, and a continuous line of fake Finches, me being one of them. My real mother sent me away to this house to settle her own crazy relationships. Haven't talked to my real father since I can remember.
Wow, that is quite disturbing. Did this affect any of your personal relationships?
Yes, one in particular. His name was Neil and he was family. Can't get into dirty details on national television, but he was my first lover. We had a sort of roller coaster relationship between physical and emotional. I was a bit insecure in my feelings since I was young and still not proud to call myself homosexual. My mother was also homosexual, so I'm assuming the genes carried over.
And what did your mother do for a living?
My mother. She was a wannabe author. She spent more of her time writing poems than loving her own son. Obviously, I got the whole get famous off of my writing thing checked off my bucket list before her. She always used me and Dr. Finch as her audience guinea pigs. I personally had no interest in what she had to say, but I found myself being yelled at if I acted like I didn't give two fladoodles, so it's a lose-lose situation. As a child, her voice was actually soothing to listen to, but you know how it works as a teen. Everything sounds like blah, blah, blah.
But you were no typical teenager. What 14-year-old is set on becoming a hairdresser?
Well, I sure was. Keyword. Was. Intentionally, I was set on producing my own hair care products. Not the cutting, the twisting, the waving, and all that jazz. Unfortunately, found out there's more to just producing a concoction hoping to get famous. Don't know how Vital Sassoon did it, but it just wasn't for me. It was the finger waving that really got to me. So instead, I just went the easy route. Producing my own book and hoping that I'll get famous. Did it work?
Well, it most certainly has. Your book has now even been turned into a motion picture. I heard that the directors debated over a specific scene to include. I believe it had something to do with checking inside the toilet bowl.
Oh, the divine intervention. Typical Dr. Finch to think his own poop brought a message from God. For almost a good 3 weeks, there was a lot of scooping and drying. Honestly, I don't believe that crap. I made it funny. But really, if God chose to talk to us, I doubt it'd be through a piece of shit.
Well, I see the doctor has some strange methods. What other crazy ideas has he used on his patients?
Well, Dr. Finch is no longer a doctor, so I think his practices were not very practical. He had no psych ward, so his home was their home. Inviting mentally ill people to be among us was not exactly ideal, not to mention his encouragement, my decision to not go to school by permitting me to take pills and alcohol together. He wasn't exactly the best doctor.
Well, obviously you've had many different experiences with the Finches. Would you take back any of it?
I most certainly wouldn't. I gained a lot out of getting away my mother's hands. I was no longer the sissy little boy, watching Pooh run around the house naked, waiting on my mother and her lover, smoking, knocking down ceilings. Everything seemed so natural and normal. Felt like I was part of something. I finally felt loved, especially by Neil. I really thought he loved me. Living with the Finches taught me more about myself than I ever expected.
Very interesting and very deep. What would you take back, though?
Maybe the way I sometimes treated Neil and my mother. I know I didn't regret what I had said because it seemed okay at the time. It sounded like a line from a movie, but now I kind of realize I just sounded like an ass.
What's your best memory with your siblings?
Definitely the time me and Natalie knocked the whole ceiling down because it was too low. It was fun. I remember we worked our little butts off to clean the kitchen up after the mess we made. We used to always get some cash out of Dr. Finch. Got so creative, too. Took out one of the spare windows we never really used and turned it into a little skylight. Agnes even cleaned up a bit, too, and that itself is a mystery within the house.
Well, before we run out of time, I'm sure we're all dying to know, where did the title Running with Scissors come from?
Well, think about it. Child running with scissors is awfully out of control, wild, and obviously not raised appropriately. The title matched my life and the lifestyle I survived as a kid. Not you would expect out of a normal teenager story. Then again, I was never normal.
Well, thank you very much, Augustin. We enjoyed having you here on the show today. This has been Carl Jones. Tune in next week as we discover a new author only 12 years old.